Euzu billahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi rabbil alamin. Vessalatu vesselamu ala seyyidina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecmaîn. Allahumme allimna ma yenfa'una venfa'na bima 'allamtana ve zidna ilmen nafi'ah. Allahumme erinel hakka hakkan varzukna ittiba'ah ve erinel batıla batılan varzukna ictinabeh. Rabbi işrah li sadri ve yessir li emri vahlul uqdeten min lisani yefkahu kavli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Reflections on the Risale-i Nur by Bediuzzaman Said Nursi podcast series. This is Mustafa Tuna. You can listen to the episodes of this series wherever you listen to your podcasts or at the website www.reflections-rn.org. Inshallah, as a reminder, a rough translation of the text we will be reflecting upon today will be posted at this website too. And that text is the 29th letter, or rather the second treatise of the 29th letter, which is on Ramadan. We are in the month of Ramadan and we are reading the treatise on Ramadan. Alhamdulillah. This treatise is composed of 9 points, 9 rather subtle points, as Ustad Nursi called them. Nukte is the word. And we read the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth ones. Today, inshallah, we will continue with the sixth. At the beginning of this treatise, Ustad Nursi says, having discussed to some extent the tokens of Islam at the end of the first section. So this is the second treatise in the 29th letter, and at the end of the first treatise, there was this discussion about the tokens of Islam, about aspects, practices of Islam that indicate that a person or a community is Muslim. And we had a lengthier discussion of this in the first episode of this treatise 2 episodes back. Having discussed to some extent the tokens of Islam at the end of the first section, in this section, which will be about the noble Ramadan, the most brilliant and magnificent one among those tokens, some of the wisdoms of the noble Ramadan will be mentioned. The second section comprises 9 subtle points that expound 9 out of many wisdoms of the noble Ramadan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. In the name of God, the Merciful, the Mercy Giver. It was in the month of Ramadan that the Qur'an was sent down as guidance for mankind, clear messages giving guidance and distinguishing between right and wrong. This is from the 285th verse of the second chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah of the Qur'an. So this whole treatise is a commentary on this verse, especially, I feel, on the word huda, right? Guidance. What is the guidance in Ramadan for us, the human beings? And in this context, Ustad Nursi writes about, or talks about, because he usually dictated his lessons to the people around him. He talked to them, he taught them, and they wrote it down. And that also reflects on the text, the narrative from time to time. If sometimes pretty colloquial language, a language that is closer to spoken language than written language. But we need to take that into consideration and try to understand, inshallah. So in that context of the guidance of Ramadan, Ustad Nursi has been talking about in this treatise various wisdoms in the command of fasting in the month of Ramadan. The sixth subtle point is going to be another one of those wisdoms. So we start. Bismillah. 6. nükte. Sixth subtle point. Ramazan-ı Şerif'in Kur'an-ı Hakîm'in nüzulüne baktığı cihetle ve Ramazan-ı Şerif Kur'an-ı Hakîm'in en mühim zamanın nüzulü olduğu cihetindeki çok hikmetlerinden birisi şudur ki, one of the wisdoms with regard to the wise Quran being sent down during the noble Ramadan, and the noble Ramadan being a most significant time in the revelation of the wise Quran, is this. So at the beginning we said, the Ramadan is the month of the Quran, and this has many ramifications. We try to increase our engagement with the Quran in this month. And that means increasing our recitation of the Quran, increasing our effort to understand the Quran, right? But another aspect of it that we mentioned is increasing our effort to embody the message of the Quran. And what is that message? First and foremost, monotheism, tawheed. And we talked about that before. Here we will talk about another aspect of, or other aspects of Ramadan being the month of the Quran, inşallah. Kur'an-ı Hakim madem şehri Ramazan'da nüzul etmiş, o Kur'an'ın zamanın nüzulünü istihzar ile o semavi hitabı hüsnü istikbal etmek için Ramazan-ı Şerif'te nefsin hacat-ı süfliyesinden ve malaniyat halattan tecerrüt ve ekl ve şürbün terkiyle melekiyet vaziyetine benzemek ve bir surette o Kur'an'ı yeni nazil oluyor gibi okumak ve dinlemek ve ondaki hitabat-ı ilahiyeyi güya geldiği anın nüzulünde dinlemek ve o hitabı Resul-i Ekrem'den aleyhissalatu vesselam işitiyor gibi dinlemek, belki Hazreti Cebrail'den, belki mütekellimi ezeliden dinliyor gibi bir kutsi halete mazhar olur. Ve kendisi tercümanlık edip başkasına dinlettirmek ve Kur'an'ın hikmet-i nüzulünü bir derece göstermektir. Since the wise Quran, or the all-wise Quran, the Quran that is full of wisdoms, has been sent down in the month of Ramadan, one is graced with sacred states upon preparing for the time of that Quran's descent. So here we are commemorating the descent, the sending down of the Quran. We need to prepare for it. If we were expecting a guest in our house, of course we would, tidy the house up, perhaps prepare some dishes, tidy ourselves up, right? If you need to take a shower, we would take a shower. We would put the best clothes, the most welcoming clothes on ourselves. We would like to be we would like to create a welcoming environment in our house. So the Quran then is like a guest that has come to our world. And this is the commemoration of its arrival, its descent to our world, right? Therefore, we want to prepare for it. One is graced with sacred states upon preparing for the time of that Quran's descent in order to welcome. So one is graced with sacred states when one prepares in order to welcome the Quran, that heavenly address in the noble Ramadan. How? By freeing oneself from meaningless states and acquiring resemblance to the angelic condition through the cessation of eating and drinking. So, how do we prepare ourselves to welcome the Quran? One, we free ourselves from meaningless states, useless things of no benefit that we keep doing throughout our lives, taking our cell phone and checking our social media, WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever, every 15 minutes, checking our email every half an hour, idle chatter, things that do not give any benefit to us, but we keep doing out of habit, right? This is a time to take account of ourselves, to review our daily lives, our routines, and try to see if, or rather how much useless nonsense is filling it, with how much useless nonsense we have filled it. And then we try to eliminate that. We try to free ourselves from those meaningless states, and we try to acquire resemblance to the angelic condition through the cessation of eating and drinking. So why angelic condition? Because angels do not need to eat or drink. But they also have rizq. They are also being provided. They like, for instance, beautiful smells, right? But they are not subject to the material necessities that we are subject to. And theirs is a loftier state, right? Loftier in the sense that we are stuck down here on material, in the materiality of our world, right? And they are more subtle beings. They are loftier beings. And because of that subtlety, they have access to realms to which we do not have access. Now, this is not to mean that the material existence that we have is worthless, doesn't have any virtue, etc. No, that is not the case. In paradise, inshallah, we will have material existence, but that will be a material existence that will be becoming of the paradise. There will be no waste, for instance. In the particular material existence that we are in, we have a lot of waste. We consume things, some of it we get the benefit from, and some of it we have to extract because, well, that's the conditions of the materiality that we are living in, right? But the angelic condition, you don't need to consume, the way we consume, like food, drink. So some saints of God, for instance, and some prophets and messengers of God were graced with this, or are given and are graced with this state in which they can to some extent free themselves of the conditions of the world and acquire this angelic state or angelic condition, right? So by not eating and drinking, we don't become angels, but we acquire a state that resembles that angelic condition, which is more becoming of our task in the month of Ramadan to welcome the Qur'an. And also, so what else do we do in order to welcome the Qur'an, and also how do we prepare ourselves for that? And also, upon reading and listening to that Qur'an, right? So this is also a cause or a condition for us to be graced with those sacred states, right? Upon reading and listening to the Qur'an, we are going to welcome it, right? We are preparing ourselves for the Qur'an, right? What better way to do so than to actually taking it in our hands, the Mus'haf in our hands, and reading it, looking at it, kissing it, loving it, hugging it, being filled with its love, and then also trying to understand and implement its message, right? Upon reading and listening to that Qur'an in a way as if it is newly being sent down. Now imagine, the Qur'an is newly being sent down. The time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, revelation is continuing. Whatever problems we have, we can look forward to consolation from God. When the Prophet ﷺ passed away, yes, of course, the companions were sorrowful, sad. They had lost their beloved. They had lost the beloved of all creation. They had lost the beloved of the Creator, but they were also sad that that revelation had come to an end. They were living in that moment fresh, powerful. The message was, in its most powerful state, and they had hearts that were able to receive that powerful message, right? Now we are not there. We are not living in the Asr al-Sa'ada. And we are not living in the time of felicity, the age of felicity. But we can try to imagine ourselves. We can try to take that state in which we imagine the companions of the Prophet ﷺ were. We can try to emulate them, right? Reading and listening. And listen here also includes heeding the message of to that Qur'an in a way as if it is newly being sent down, and listening to the divine addresses as though at the moment of their descent, as if listening to that address from the noble messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We can try to imagine ourselves in that state, rather, right, as if listening from our master Gabriel. So that was the Prophet ﷺ who was listening to the revelation from Gabriel, Jibril alayhi salam. We can try to imagine that. And yet rather from the pre-eternal speaker, God, from God, we can try to imagine ourselves how must it be, what kind of reverence, tranquility, readiness, attention that Jibril alayhi salam must be in as he is given the verses of the Qur'an to convey to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What kind of awe must he be in? We can try to imagine that, and we can try to emulate that. We can try to put our heart in a state in which it would be worthy of that message, worthy of receiving that message of the Qur'an. And doing this, trying to put ourselves in the state, trying to rid ourselves of the worthless nonsense that fills our routines, trying to acquire that angelic condition by through the cessation of eating and drinking and other things that are also animalistic, and we will talk in more detail about that. And listening to the Qur'an, reading and listening to the Qur'an as if it is being revealed right now. Doing all of these is also to be an interpreter for others to listen and to show the wisdom of the Qur'an's descent to some extent. Why? Because actions speak louder than words. If we were the believers, the Muslims, if we were able to condition ourselves before the Qur'an in a way that the Qur'an deserves, then the world would be following us, because they would see. That is one of the secrets in that the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to some calculations, 124,000, over 100,000. The ones that we know are by name are less, right? But let's say 150,000 people. How they spread to the entire world, the known world of their time, or the world as it was known to them, from east to west, south and north, within a few decades, how they spread Islam. Their actions were speaking louder than their words. They were emulating the Quran. They were living the Quran. They were emulating the one whose character was the Quran, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? His character was the Quran, as Aisha radiyallahu anha, our mother, told us. Evet, Ramazan-ı Şerif'te güya alem-i İslam bir mescid hükmüne geçiyor. Öyle bir mescid ki milyonlarla hafızlar o Mescid-i Ekber'in köşelerinde o Kur'an'ı hitab-ı semavi arzlılara işittiriyorlar. Her Ramazan şehru Ramadanellezî unzile fîhil Kur'an ayetini nurani parlak bir tarzda gösteriyor. Ramazan Kur'an ayı olduğunu ispat ediyor. O cemaat-i uzmanın sair efratları bazıları huşu ile o hafızları dinlerler, diğerleri kendi kendine okurlar. Yes, in the noble Ramadan, it is as though the world of Islam becomes a mosque in effect. The entire world, right? And on the entire world, the physical world, anywhere, there are Muslims. If there is one Muslim who has somehow traveled to Antarctica and reciting the Quran there now, that is part of the world of Islam, right? It is as though the world of Islam becomes a mosque. Such a mosque that millions of Quran memorizers have the denizens of the world hear the Quran. That heavenly address in the corners of that great mosque. And who are the denizens of the world? It is not only human beings, it is the jinn, it is the angels, it is the plants, it is the rocks, it is the animals. You know, based on prophetic traditions, we know that, for instance, the places that we pray will testify that we prayed there. Now, the places that we pray are, carpets, rocks, brick, pieces of wood, the constructions, whatever the construction is made of, or whatever the ground on which we prayed. They are immaterial beings, but they will testify. How? Right? There is an aspect of all of these things. There is a dimension of all of these things in which consciousness is possible. And we talked about this before. One way to explain this, one way to understand this is that there are these appointed angels, entrusted angels. These things are entrusted to various angels who guide them, guide the molecules, the atoms, the elements, the plants, the animals, the rocks, the trees, the clouds, the stars, and also present the glorifications of each and every one of these things, and they each glorify God in their peculiar ways. They present those glorifications to God. So when we recite the Quran, when we read the Quran, right? When the believers recite the Quran and the sound of the Quran reverberates in the atmosphere, right? The denizens of the world hear that Quran. They are filled with joy. That heavenly address in the corners of that great mosque. Every Ramadan shows the verse, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. It was in the month of Ramadan that the Quran was sent down in a luminous and brilliant way, and proves that Ramadan is the month of the Quran. Ramadan is the month of the Quran, and therefore we all believers around the world try to increase our engagement with it, and that there is barakah in this, there's effusion in this, that we are all we can all feel in our own selves that in this month we either have a higher urge to engage the Quran, or we can also see that our efforts to engage the Quran have more blessing in it, right? So as a result, the month of Ramadan becomes the month of the Quran even more so. Among the other members of that tremendous congregation, right? Some listen to those memorizers of the Quran, because in this mosque of the world of Islam, it is the people who have memorized the Quran, the Huffaz, who recite it, and others who have not memorized it, right? Either listen to those memorizers, or in a state of reference. That's important. They either listen to those memorizers in a state of reference, a love and fear put together, right? Reverence, and others recite on their own, perhaps silently. So some have better voice, some don't have better voice. But doesn't matter, because the measure here is not how good the voice is. The measure is what is in the heart. With how much sincerity is one listening or reading the Quran. With how much reverence is one holding the Quran. Şöyle bir vaziyetteki bir mescid-i mukaddeste nefs-i süfliğinin hevesatına tabi olup yemek içmekle o vaziyeti nuraniden çıkmak ne kadar çirkinse ve o mescitteki cemaatin manevi nefretine ne kadar hedef ise, öyle de Ramazan-ı Şerif'te ehl-i sıyama muhalefet edenler de o derece umum alemi İslam'ın manevi nefretine ve tahkirine hedeftir. Now at the beginning we said that in this subtle point we will talk about one of the wisdoms with regard to the wise Quran being sent down during the month of noble Ramadan, and the noble Ramadan being a most significant time in the revelation of the wise Quran. And one of the aspects of the noble Ramadan that is most conspicuous, that we all identify it with, is fasting. Therefore, fasting must also have to do something with the month of Ramadan being the month of the Quran. How? This is how Ustad Nursi explains it in this paragraph. However ugly it is to follow the lowly soul's desires and thus exit that luminous condition in such a holy mosque by eating and drinking. So imagine, you are at the mosque. All the congregation are sitting, properly on their knees. The Hafid, the Quran reciter, memorizer, is reciting Quran. Everybody's, all the hearts, all the spirits have melted. They are listening to the Quran. They are in a state of awe and reverence, and you are there too, and you are thinking, that fried chicken that I ate last night, it was really good. Let me go grab another one, whatever you grabbed it. Let me go grab another one, and you come and start. You're eating your chicken, and then they're listening to the Quran as if this is an entertainment hall or something where people eat and listen to entertaining music. No, the Quran is not entertaining music. The Quran calls for reverence. So however ugly it is to follow the lowly soul's desires and thus exit that luminous condition in such a holy mosque, the world of Islam is a holy mosque in the month of Ramadan, by eating and drinking, however much this would be the target of the metaphysical hatred of the congregation in that mosque. Like you can imagine, like people giving you these like side glances, and perhaps some who are more outgoing, looking at directly, and you can see the contempt in their eyes. Perhaps some come to you and say, like, what are you doing? This is not the place to eat and drink now. This is not entertainment. We are providing nutrition to our souls and hearts, to our spirits. Come to your senses, right? So however ugly it is to follow the lowly soul's desires and thus exit that luminous condition in such a holy mosque by eating and drinking, and however much this would be the target of the metaphysical hatred of the congregation in that mosque, likewise, to that extent, those who violate the fast in the noble Ramadan become the target of hatred and disdain of the entire world of Islam. The fast in the noble Ramadan, right, need to be respected. This is the month of the Quran, and everything associated with the month of the Quran is honorable, is noble. And the fast is a token of the month of Ramadan, as the month of the Ramadan is a token of Islam. And so is the fasting a token of Islam. Therefore, it is not to be violated. Now, this doesn't mean that, people who are sick, who are weak, who are traveling, who have the permission to not fast, are not allowed to do so. No, we have no contempt for them. We have no disdain for them. because they are not violating. Violation is when you to take something when you don't have the permission to take it, to do something when you don't have the permission to do it. Sick people, traveling people, women in their certain circumstances, they have the permission not to fast. Right? But even in that case, it would be better for them to, if they have to eat, to eat, secretly without showing it, right? To respect the sanctity of this month and the fast in this month. It used to be that, and this again relates to Ramadan and fasting of Ramadan being tokens of Islam. It used to be that if you went to a Muslim community, a Muslim, I'm not going to say country, but a neighborhood, because Muslims and non-Muslims lived together side by side, you would not see anybody eating or drinking. And perhaps even more importantly, and this is something that I have heard from my parents, but I did not witness myself. I'm from Turkey. From the city of Ankara, and the city of Ankara has this, bazaar, this marketplace called Saman Pazarı. It's a hay market, right? In my childhood, it was, filled with small shops, left and right, on a long hillside. There were lots of non-Muslim shopkeepers there, mostly Greeks and some Armenians. They too would, out of their respect for the fasting of the Muslims, the majority of Muslims, not eat openly in the month of Ramadan. They would eat, of course, and there's nothing that should prevent them from eat and drink. But if they were eating, they would go to the back of the shop and hide behind something and then eat there, right? And this is the beauty of believers of Islam and believers of other religions being able to live together. This is in our tradition. This is in our history. It did happen. There were times that when that was violated, but the norm. This is the norm, right? Everybody respects. La ikraha fi din. There is no coercion in religion. Everybody respects each other's religion and faith and customs and so on and so forth. At any rate, open violation of the fast, open intended violation of the fast in the noble Ramadan, it deserves to be the target of the hatred and disdain of the entire world of Islam. It is not something to be taken lightly. It is not just an individual choice. It is a token of Islam. It is something that we need in order to maintain Islam, in order to preserve the religion, inshallah. 7. nükte. We are moving on to the next subtle point. 7th subtle point. Ramazan'ın siyamı dünyada ahiret için ziraat ve ticaret etmeye gelen nev-i insanın kazancına baktığı cihetteki çok hikmetlerden bir hikmeti şudur ki. So what is the next wisdom that we will be looking at? One of the many wisdoms of fasting in Ramadan, with regard to the acquisitions of the humankind who come to this world in order to cultivate it for the hereafter and engage in it in otherworldly trade, is this. So human beings are here. We found ourselves here. We came here. We were not here. We are here. Therefore, we came here. What did we come here for? Is it to live however long we live and then disappear and become elements again? Acquire nothing? Or is it to acquire something? Our understanding and what makes sense, what rationally makes sense, and what is corroborated by the divine message is that we are here to acquire things for another world that is to come, the hereafter. So there are wisdoms that pertain to this reality. The acquisitions of the humankind. What do human beings acquire here, right? By using this world as a cultivating field, as the Prophet ﷺ told us in a prophetic tradition. This world is the cultivating field of the hereafter. And by engaging in it in otherworldly trade, which is implied in various verses in the Qur'an, what do we acquire? How do we cultivate this world? And how can we do a good trade, a profitable trade? And what is the what does this have to do with Ramadan? Let's read. Ramazan-ı Şerif'te sevab-ı amal 1'e 1000'dir. So I'll read the entire paragraph, but from the very beginning, this makes it clear. During the noble Ramadan, the reward for deeds is 1,000 to 1. Ramazan-ı Şerif'te sevab-ı amal 1'e 1000'dir. Kur'an-ı Hakim'in nas-ı hadisle her bir harfinin 10 sevabı var. 10 hasene yazılır. 10 meyve-i cennet getirir. Ramazan-ı Şerif'te her bir harfin 10 değil 1000 ve Ayet-ül Kürsi gibi ayetlerin her bir harfi binler ve Ramazan-ı Şerif'in cumalarında daha ziyadedir. Ve Leyle-i Kadir'de 30.000 hasene sayılır. Evet, her bir harfi 30.000 baki meyveler veren Kur'an-ı Hakim öyle bir nurani şecere-i tuğba hükmüne geçiyor ki milyonlarla o baki meyveleri Ramazan-ı Şerif'te müminlere kazandırır. İşte gel bu kutsi, ebedi, karlı ticarete bak, seyret ve düşün ki bu hurufatın kıymetini takdir etmeyenler ne derece hadsiz bir hasarette olduğunu anla. So this is a month in which the returns are more. There are more returns. It's really profitable. This is really a good season to do business. You put 1, you get 1,000. During the noble Ramadan, the reward for deeds is 1,000 to 1. According to the prophetic traditions, each letter of the wise Quran has 10 rewards. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ told us. Recite the Quran. For each letter that you are reciting, you get 10 rewards. And it is not, it is not each word, each letter. So Alif is a letter, Lam is a letter, Mim is a letter, right? So it's not Al-Hamd, that is several letters, right? It is, Al-Hamd, 5 letters. So you say Al-Hamd or Al-Hamdu in the Fatiha, the beginning of the Quran, you say Al-Hamdu, and you get 50 rewards for those 5 letters. So the Quran then is itself a multiplier. So the month of Ramadan is a multiplier, and the Quran itself is a multiplier too. So what if you recited the Quran in the month of Ramadan? According to the prophetic traditions, each letter of the wise Quran has 10 rewards. It counts as 10 good deeds and yields 10 fruits of paradise. We don't know what exactly that fruit of paradise is, but we know that it's going to have yields in paradise. We say Subhanallah here, we eat Subhanallah in paradise. And that Subhanallah that we will eat in paradise is going to be more delicious than anything that we can ever imagine to be eating in this world. It counts as 10 good deeds, 10 rewards. During the noble Ramadan, each letter has not 10, but 1,000. Right? Because Ramadan is multiplying, it's increasing it with 1,000-fold. Some verses, such as the verse of the throne, this is the 255th verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, the 2nd chapter of the Quran, that starts with Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. Right? Some verses like this have thousands, not 1,000, but thousands of rewards. And this is even more on the Fridays of the noble Ramadan. Why? Because Friday itself is a multiplier. So multiplier on top of multiplier on top of multiplier. On the night of power, Laylatul Qadr, and we don't know exactly what night it is. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to look for it on, in the month of Ramadan. Then, there is there's a very high likelihood that it may be in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, but it can also move. So every night of Ramadan, and every year actually, but especially every night of Ramadan, we look for the night of power. But if we can't find it, right, each letter counts as 30,000 good deeds on that night, because in the Quran God said that Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alfi shahr. The night of power is better than 1,000 months, and 1,000 months, assuming each month to be 30 days, amounts to 30,000 days. So our multiplier on that night is 30,000. You say alif. This is the first letter of the huruf muqatta, the letters at the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, right? Alif Lam Mim. This is the first verse, and alif in there is one letter. You say alif, of course, with the intention to recite it as Qur'an. You get 30,000 good deeds. You get 30,000 fruits of paradise. What does that mean? We can't even imagine. Yes, the wise Quran, each of whose letters yields 30,000 everlasting fruits, becomes a luminous tuba tree in effect, and causes the believers to earn millions of everlasting fruits during the noble Ramadan. Tuba tree is a tree that we understand from prophetic traditions that grows in paradise. According to some narrations, it may be growing upside down, but what really matters is that it is very big. You know, a horseman might be riding in the shade of that tree and keeps riding and riding and riding and won't be able to finish in hundreds of years. So big a tree, and so blessed and luminous. We don't know exactly what it is. Of course, these are, matters of affairs of the other world, for which we do not have exact measures, but we compare that to what we know here. We use what we have here in order to try to comprehend what it means. What is a tree? Imagine a beautiful, sunny, but really sunny, really bright, and really hot day. Imagine yourself walking in the desert, for instance. You walk and walk and walk and walk, and you see an oasis, and you get to the oasis, and there are these beautiful trees with wide branches and dense shade. You enter, and all of a sudden it is cool. It is cool to your body, to your touch, and it's cool to your eyes. The dazing light of the sun is also moderated in there, right? It is pleasant. So that tuba tree is this pleasant thing. It is this enjoyment, joy of paradise, and it is full of fruits. If Ramadan, right? In the Ramadan, the wise Quran, each of whose letters yields 30,000 everlasting fruits, becomes a luminous tuba tree and causes the believers to earn millions of everlasting fruits during the noble Ramadan. Imagine how much Quran recitation is happening in this month, how much you are reciting the Quran, and how many rewards you are earning with that. Millions, millions and millions and millions. And put the rewards that all believers are earning. It is the month of Ramadan. It is the effusion. It is the faid. It is the outpouring blessing, overflowing blessing that God, out of his munificence, puts into this month and gives us as an opportunity here. This day is the day for doing business. Don't miss it. This day, the multiplier is very high. If you are among the earners, you earn big. So we need to try to earn. Here, come, look at this sacred, eternal, and profitable trade. Observe this situation and think. And think so that you understand what an unlimited loss that those who fail to appreciate the value of these letters are suffering. Do not think that, reading the Quran, just this, monotonous uttering of words. No, it is a tremendous thing. It is God's word, and it is God who willed to put this blessing in the letters of the Quran. It's all in his hand. He decided, he willed to do so, and he told us that he is doing. So all that befalls us is to do our best, do our utmost in order to benefit from it. May we benefit from it. But this is not only for the Quran. The Quran is multiplier over multiplier. But for all good deeds, the month of Ramadan is a month where the coefficient is higher. İşte Ramazan-ı Şerif adeta bir ahiret ticareti için gayet karlı bir meşher, bir pazardır. Ve uhrevi hasılat için gayet münbit bir zemindir. Ve neşv-i nemai amal için bahardaki mai nisandır. Saltanat-ı rububiyet-i ilahiyeye karşı ubudiyet-i beşeriyenin resmi geçit yapmasına en parlak kutsi bir bayram hükmündedir. Hence, the noble Ramadan is, as it were, an utterly profitable display hall and a marketplace for the trade of the hereafter. A display hall where you would take your goods and display them and sell them, right? Or a marketplace. You go there and the profits are really high there. In the other marketplace, you take your goods and if it cost you $2, you can sell it for $3. In this marketplace, you can sell it for $2,000, and there's a customer. There are buyers, right? You can increase the prices are really high here. So the profit margin is really high here. It is the noble Ramadan. It is an utterly profitable display hall and a marketplace for the trade of the hereafter. But of course, this is for the trade of the hereafter, not if you are chasing worldly trade. No. Stop everything else to the extent that you reasonably can and engage in this trade, because this is the time to profit for good, not to profit not to profit to acquire things that are not going to last, but to profit for things that are going to last. It is an utterly fertile ground to reap otherworldly yields. And there are some grounds, there is some land, some soil. You plant a seed, let's say a seed of wheat, and you get 100-fold, 100 seeds from the growing of the plant. That's good. That's fertile. But this one, Ramadan, right? You get 1 to 1,000. So if you were getting 100 there, here you will get 100,000. Come, cultivate this soil, this field. This is a really fertile field. Don't miss it. It is the April showers for the flourishing of deeds. In April, when it rains, as it is, mashallah, it is April and it is raining where I am now. When it rains, that really nurtures plants, especially grains, right? If it rains in April and then the sun comes out and shines in May and June, the grains will have really good yield. It is the April showers for the flourishing of deeds. It is in effect a most brilliant and sacred celebration for the parade of the humankind's worshipful slavehood before the royal power of divine lordship. This is the time to go before your Lord with your worshipful slavehood, assuming your worshipful slavehood, to stand before Him and to worship Him, to show your respect for Him, your love for Him, your awe of Him, your desire and gratitude desire for and gratitude for being his, but nobody else's, his slave. Ve öyle olduğundan yemek içmek gibi nefsin gafletle hayvani hacatına ve malayani ve hevaperestane müştehiyata girmemek için oruçla mükellef olmuş. Güya muvakkaten hayvaniyetten çıkıp melekiyet vaziyetine veyahut ahiret ticaretine girdiği için dünyevi hacatını muvakkaten bırakmakla uhrevi bir adam ve tecessüden tezahür etmiş bir ruh vaziyetine girerek savmı ile samediyete bir nevi aynedarlık etmektir. And because this is so, because noble Ramadan is such a profitable marketplace or fertile ground, or in April showers, or a sacred celebration to present your worship to your Lord, right? And because this is so, the human being has become accountable to fast in order to avoid the lower soul's needs that become animalistic due to heedlessness and its meaningless appetites that indulge vain desires. So, in order to profit here in this month, you need to concentrate your effort in the trade. There are certain parts of the year, certain seasons of the years where farmers are really busy. They work day and night, day and night. They need to, till that land in time and sow the seed in time before the rains fall, so that the seed can germinate in time and come out and benefit from the sun. So it's about timing. It's about also place, right? In this, if you have this, if this field is allocated to you this year, you are going to work hard to get it, right? This is about timing. This is about picking the place. This is the time and place for the trade of the hereafter. Now, if you are going to focus on the trade of the hereafter at this time and at this place, you need to move yourself away. You need to distance yourself from certain other things. And because this is so, the human being has become accountable to fast, or this is one of the wisdoms, of course, in order to avoid the lower soul's needs that become animalistic due to heedlessness. Now, the lower soul has lots of needs, and those needs can be turned into means of worship. How? I get hungry. I find food that fills my heart with gratitude. I eat. I taste. The taste is delicious. The pleasure that I receive in itself carries a meaning of gratitude, and then I articulate that in my thoughts and in my words and say, Alhamdulillah, I'm grateful to my Lord. Praise be to my Lord. What a beautiful blessing this is. I would not be able to acquire it by myself. It is my Lord from whom this is. I recognize my Lord as the provider. So in all of these, the need of my lower soul for food, my hunger, was a means for worship. But we can't always attain this. We are human, we forget, we fall into heedlessness. And because of heedlessness, that act of eating turns into an animal act, an animalistic act. And this is okay for animals because they are not given the intellect, the heart, the imagination, the conscience, etc. that we are given, and therefore they are not accountable for them. Their worship is to enjoy. When the sheep eats the grass and it is tasty, it enjoys it, that is its gratitude. That enjoyment is the gratitude, carries the meaning of gratitude for the sheep. But for me, I need to pass beyond that. When I don't pass beyond that, I waste my faculties. The faculties that I should be using, the capital, the equipment that I should be using for my otherworldly trade and otherworldly cultivation now, I lose it, right? So to avoid that, to avoid the lower soul's needs that become animalistic due to heedlessness, and also its meaningless appetites that indulge vain desires. We don't only eat because we are trying to preserve our existence. We eat for the taste. We eat more than what we need, not only in terms of quantity but also in terms of quality. A morsel of bread is enough to keep the man's back straight. Right? A little bit of nutrition is sufficient for us to survive, but we eat way more than what we need for survival. Well, that is a lot of faculty and equipment that is being wasted, that could have been used for other purposes in this blessed month when the multiplier is really high. Right? So fasting then is a blessing from our Lord to increase our yield, otherworldly yield, by concentrating our effort, by concentrating our faculties and equipment on what they are actually for. Because the human being temporarily leaves animality, being an animal, and acquires an angelic condition or enters upon the trade of the hereafter, it is as though by leaving one's worldly needs temporarily, one takes on the condition of an otherworldly person and a spirit appearing in body, and thus one holds a kind of mirror to eternal besottedness, samadhiya, with his fasting. Samad is one of the most beautiful names of God. It is usually translated as eternally besought one, but what it actually means is someone who is in need of nothing and everybody is in need of for everything. Ramadan is an opportunity for us, and especially fasting in Ramadan is an opportunity for us to recognize that we are all in need of Him and He is in need of nothing. If we have Him, we have everything, and if we lose Him, we lose everything. We have nothing. Right? So through this recognition in the month of Ramadan, by shedding our heedlessness, by leaving our heedlessness behind, through fasting, cultivating our sense of awareness of our neediness for Him and His mercy in fulfilling our needs, we hold a kind of mirror to His samadhiya, to Him being the eternally besought one. Evet, Ramazan-ı Şerif bu fani dünyada, fani ömür içinde ve kısa bir hayatta baki bir ömür ve uzun bir hayatı bakiyeyi tazammun eder, kazandırır. Evet, bir tek Ramazan 80 sene bir ömür semeratını kazandırabilir. Leyle-i Kadir ise nasıl Kur'an ile 1000 aydan daha hayırlı olduğu bu sırra bir hücceti katıadır. Yes, the noble Ramadan entails and makes one earn in this world, and within this temporal lifespan, however long each person lives, and short life, an everlasting lifespan, and a long and lasting life. You live, let's say, 50 years, but in that 50 years is included through Ramadan an everlasting lifespan and a long and lasting life. Yes, a single Ramadan can make one earn the fruits of an 80-year-long span of life. Remember we said the night of power is better than 1,000 months. That corresponds to 80 years. Yes, a single Ramadan, but does not have to, can make one earn the fruits of an 80-year-long span of life. So there is the opportunity. And the opportunity is for those who take advantage of it, who succeed in taking advantage of it. May we be among the successful ones. That the night of power is better than 1,000 months, according to the Qur'an, offers a definitive evidence for this secret, that the Ramadan can make one earn the fruits of an 80-year-long span of life. and more. If you hit the night of power and were aware of it, and you spent it in worship, right? You earn the fruits of an 80-year long span of life. It is as if you worshipped continually, non-stop, for 80 years, one night. Subhanallah. What munificence, what generosity our Lord has. In addition to that, then, Ramadan is 30 days. That is one night. It can help you, it can make you earn a lot more than 80 years. And also, this is about our ikhlas, our sincerity in purpose, the purity of our intention. That is another coefficient. So this is the time to profit. This is the time to profit. We need to focus. We need to take advantage of it. Evet, nasıl ki bir padişah müddeti saltanatında belki her senede ya Cülûs-u Hümayun namıyla veyahut başka bir şaşalı cilve-i saltanatına mazhar bazı günleri bayram yapar. Raiyetini o günde umumi kanunlar dairesinde değil, belki hususi ihsanatına ve perdesiz huzuruna ve has iltifatına ve fevkalade icraatına ve doğrudan doğruya layık ve sadık milletini has teveccühüne mazhar eder. Öyle de ezel ve ebed sultanı olan 18 bin alemin padişahı Zülcelali, o 18 bin aleme bakan, teveccüh eden, ferman-ı alişanı olan Kur'an Hakimi, Ramazan-ı Şerif'te inzal eylemiş. Elbette o Ramazan mahsus bir bayram-ı ilahi ve bir meşher-i Rabbani ve bir meclis-i ruhani hükmüne geçmek muktezai hikmettir. Yes, in the way that during his reign, or in fact every year, a sultan designates the day of his enthronement, or some other days that are graced by the splendid ramifications of his royal power, to be days of celebration. And on that day of celebration, he graces his subjects not within the confines of general laws, but with his special bestowals, unveiled presence, personal favors, and extraordinary acts, and he turns to his deserving and loyal nation, loyal people, with his personal attention. So this is what sultans do, what kings do, the kings of the world do. In the Ottoman period, for instance, when a sultan came to throne, right, the father died, the next in line became the king. It was called julus, sitting, enthronement. And on the day of the julus, on the day of the celebrations of julus, enthronement, the king would be munificent, generous, keep giving, distribute money, distribute goods, right? Imagine a celebration like that. This is what the kings of the world do. In like fashion, the majestic emperor of the 18,000 realms, who is the sultan of pre-eternity and post-eternity, has sent down the wise Qur'an, which is a glorious decree looking to those 18,000 realms and facing them during the noble Ramadan. Of course, wisdom calls for that Ramadan to become in effect a divine celebration, a lordly display, and a spiritual assembly. So if that is what worldly kings do, what does God do? Who is God? The majestic emperor. Padişah is the word used in Turkish. So a sultan over sultans. A majestic emperor of the 18,000 realms. And this is a number that is mentioned in the literature, often mentioned in the literature. It is, they say in Turkish, kesretten kinay. It indicates, multitude, many realms. Some people make some calculations. For instance, each day is a realm for every person. If a person comes of age, becomes an adult at age 15 and lives on average, let's say 65 years, that is 50 years, and multiply that, you have 18,000. You see 18,000 realms in your lifetime, etc., etc. There are many narrations about this. So 18,000 realms does not necessarily mean that there are only 18,000 realms. It is probably more than that. God knows how many, and it also depends on how you classify them. So, for instance, if you classify them as the seen realm and the unseen realm, then you have two realms, right? So the majestic emperor of the 18,000 realms, all the realms that we know and that we don't know. A king, an emperor of this world, a king of this world would be the king of a chunk on earth, a part of the face of the earth. God is the emperor, the king, king of kings, the king of all the realms, who is the sultan of pre-eternity and post-eternity. A king would be a king for the duration of his reign. God is forever. He is the eternal king. He is the sultan of pre-eternity and post-eternity. So if that is what we expect from the kings, what about God? He has sent down the wise Qur'an, which is He has sent down the wise Qur'an. We talked about the days that are graced by the splendid ramifications of a king's royal power. What about sending down the Qur'an? Is that not a splendid ramification of God's royal power? He has sent down the wise Qur'an, which is a glorious decree, looking to those 18,000 realms, all the realms, and facing them during the noble Ramadan. He has sent it during the noble Ramadan. This is the day to be commemorated. Of course, wisdom calls for that Ramadan to become in effect a divine celebration, a lordly display, and a spiritual assembly. This is the day when the general laws will be put aside and the king, the emperor, the king of kings will turn to his subjects, especially his loyal subjects, with special blessings, with special bestowals. He will bring them to his unveiled presence. He will fill their arms with his personal favors. He will turn to them. They will have his attention. We have his attention in this day, in this month. We have God's attention in this month. This is the month to turn to him. And the Qur'an is his decree. By latching onto his decree, his word, we can draw close to him. By increasing our love for his beloved, we can draw closer to him. By increasing our worship for him, we can draw closer to him. If we take one step toward him, he comes running to us. We need to take a step. We need to take a step toward him. Madem Ramazan o bayramdır, since Ramadan is that celebration, elbette bir derece süfli ve hayvani meşagilden insanları çekmek için oruca emredilecek. Ve o orucun ekmeli ise mide gibi bütün duyguları, gözü, kulağı, kalbi, hayali, fikri gibi cihazat-ı insaniyeye dahi bir nevi oruç tutturmaktır. Yani muharremattan, malayaniyattan çekmek ve her birisine mahsus ubudiyete sevk etmektir. Mesela dilini yalandan, gıybetten ve galis tabirlerden ayırmakla ona oruç tutturmak ve o lisanı tilavete Kur'an ve zikir ve tesbih ve salavat ve istiğfar gibi şeylerle meşgul etmek. Mesela gözünü namahreme bakmaktan ve kulağını fena şeyleri işitmekten men edip gözünü ibrete ve kulağını hak söz ve Kur'an dinlemeye sarf etmek gibi sair cihazata da bir nevi oruç tutturmaktır. Zaten mide en büyük bir fabrika olduğu için oruçla ona tatile eşgal ettirilse başka küçük dezgahlar kolayca ona ittiba ettirilebilir. So, Ramadan is that celebration. Since Ramadan is that celebration, of course, in it will be the command to fast in order to pull people away from preoccupations that are to some extent lowly and animalistic. The Sultan has declared this day a day of celebration. He has invited all his subjects to this great arena where the celebrations are taking place. Leave whatever you are doing on that day. If you are an ironsmith, leave your hearth, leave your hammer, Put on your beautiful, clean clothes. Go to the arena where the celebrations are taking place. Yes, you are preoccupied. Yes, you need to take care of your affairs. You need to earn your livelihood, etc., etc. And you are doing all of that in His name. After all, He is the true provider. You are not providing. He is providing. But this is a duty that He wants you to fulfill, right? But there is an opportunity on this day that you are also required to stop doing certain things. Some of what you have been doing is not really necessary. You can go for 15 hours without eating and drinking. You can go with an hour, perhaps 2 hours of less sleep by standing in qiyam, standing for tarawih prayers after the last prayer of the day. You can talk a little less. You can spend somewhat less time, watching movies or listening to meaningless music, browsing the internet, reading newspapers, reading news that you are going to forget tomorrow and will have no idea in a month from now. You can do without many things. Fasting is an opportunity and a prescription for that. Of course, in the month of Ramadan, will be the command to fast in order to pull people away from preoccupations that are to some extent lonely and animalistic. And the most perfect form of fasting. So how is fasting supposed to be then in order to pull you away from those unnecessary preoccupations? And the most perfect form of fasting is to have all senses, the eye, the ear, and all human faculties, or all the equipment that is given to you in order to trade in this world, such as the heart, the imagination, and the mind, fast along with the stomach. So fasting is not only not eating and not drinking, but all the senses, all the faculties, all the equipment that is given to the human being need to have their share from fasting. That is to say, to pull them away from what is lawfully prohibited, haram, and meaningless, and direct them each to their specific form of worshipful slavehood. So what is lawfully prohibited, we inshallah, may that be the case, we tend to be relatively better in this, because it is clear, we know it, we get used to abstaining from it, avoiding it from our childhood, especially if we grew up in a Muslim family or Muslim society. Say we don't drink alcohol, say we don't eat pork, say we don't steal, say we don't, inshallah, backbite, right? But there are also lots of meaningless things that are taking away the precious time that we need to get as much of the special bestowals, personal favors of the emperor on this state. We need all of our, both of our hands. If we had 10,000 hands, we would need all those 10,000 hands, right? We need to use all of them. We need to pull them away from what is lawfully prohibited and also from what is meaningless, and direct them each to their specific form of worshipful slavehood. And that is the way to earn those bestowals, to receive those bestowals. Our heart has a form of worshipful slavehood. It loves the Prophet ﷺ, for instance. It loves God. It loves good things, right? Our eyes have a special form of worshipful slavehood. Our heart, for instance, avoids the whisperings of the Satan. Our eyes avoid what is prohibited, right? Every limb, every organ, every faculty, every equipment that we are given has a specific form of worshipful slavehood, and we need to maximize our utilization of all of them in this month. For example, to have one's tongue fast by disengaging it from lying, backbiting, and obscene expressions, and to occupy that tongue with the recitation of the Qur'an, and with things like remembrance, dhikr, glorification, tasbih, and sending salutations, salawat to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, saying Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad, and asking for forgiveness, istighfar, oh God, forgive me, astaghfirullah, right? Doing all of these, avoiding what is prohibited, what is meaningless, and increasing our engagement with what yields fruits of paradise. Or, for example, to have other organs also fast by prohibiting one's eye from looking at marriageable members of the other sex, i.e., what is prohibited to look at for a man or for a woman of the other sex, and one's ear from hearing evil things. And these are just examples. And by devoting one's eye to what is edifying, and ear to true and meaningful words and the Qur'an. As a matter of fact, since the stomach is the largest factory, if it is given a break from working, other small workbenches can easily be made to follow it. And this is the beauty of fasting. When the stomach is full, the body is beaming with energy, and the lower soul then is awakened, and it starts to turn around and look at everything, and it is attracted to all sorts of things, and it also feels that it has the ability to do it because the body is beaming with energy. But when the stomach takes a break, when there is a decrease in the amount of nutrition, when the body feels its impotence, weakness, and the lower soul is left without means to be running around and wreaking havoc, then it's a good opportunity to start to think about maximizing the utilization of all those faculties that each have their specific forms of worship, both in the form of abstaining what is prohibited and in the form of struggling to fulfill duties and do good deeds. May I, and maybe all, and may all believers in this world be able to benefit from this blessed celebration during which God has opened the gates of His munificence and giving in ways that we cannot even imagine. May we all be able to open our hands and receive them. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة الصلوات.